All right, everybody, no time for nonsense to kick off today's stream. We're picking up some of the Johnny Depp trial. It's gotten very crazy, of audio taped abuse sessions and all sorts of different things. I believe we're now hearing from the Butler, if I recall correctly. Let's listen. Let's figure it out together.
On this occasion, would I be available to go and manage a property where Mr. Depp was going to be staying for about a month in central London? Was I available? Would I be willing to do it? And I was available at that point. And so I said, yes, yeah, absolutely.
And just to make sure we're on the same page, what time frame are we talking about here?
That was August 2014.
Okay. And did you, in fact, end up working for Mr. Depp in that time frame?
I did, yes.
Now, just to clarify, were you employed by Mr. Depp?
No.
So who was your employer?
I was paid through a large hotel which was close by to the house, who also, they provided the housekeeper who was working with us for that month as well. So I was paid through them.
Okay. Can you just generally explain to us what kind of work you were doing for Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard in this time frame?
Sure, yeah, it was the setup of the house, basically. Setting up the house initially, which meant ahead of the principals arriving, which meant making sure all the linens were in place for the bedrooms. It was a sizable property. And just organizing everything ahead of their arrival. Once they arrived,
did he witness the Grumpies?
Property, the oversight of it, and the day-to-day running, some service, like butler service, and managing the housekeeper day-to-day through that whole month.
And when you refer to the principals, who are you referring to?
Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard.
Okay. Where exactly were you working in London at this point? Just kind of describe for us the house, I guess.
This was in Mayfair. It was a large townhouse in an old building, but it was very contemporary inside, modern, furnished, very modern sort of way. Quite spacious, maybe 4 or 5 bedrooms, I think. A small indoor pool, a small gym.
Small.
Quite an open plan layout throughout the house.
Like a huge gym.
Okay. And how long were they there?
For the month, essentially, yes.
Okay. Can you tell us just generally what hours you would typically work in a day while you were working for them in London in this time frame?
Yeah, approximately. It depended on what was going on, but I mean, generally 7 or 8 in the morning till 7 or 8 in the evening. Typically, there was a chef employed as well. Russell, brilliant chef.
You should see what he was able to do with the mangoes.
In the evening, he would cook dinner, serve dinner, and thankfully cleaned up after dinner, so I could leave sort of early to mid-evening, usually most days.
Genius, chef.
Unless we had guests, unless there were guests or other things going on.
During your time managing the house for Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard in 2014, did you have occasion to observe the interactions between Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
How often?
Most daily, I would say. Pretty much most days through that period.
And did you yourself interact with Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard?
Yes, also daily, I would say.
Which of them would you say, or did you see one of them more often than the other?
Ms. Heard was there. Mr. Depp was, the reason I think they rented the house was because Mr. Depp was working at a studio. I think it was Mordecai, the movie.
Mordecai.
So Ms. Heard was there at the house most of the days. Mr. Depp often went to work and came back later on in that evening, that day.
Okay. How would you generally describe the interactions that you observed between Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard?
Initially, very sort of loving towards each other, nice couple. Mr. Depp was always a gentleman and keen to make sure Miss Heard was taken care of. Anything she needed, often pour a glass of wine for her.
Whoa.
Just nice, pleasant.
How about your own interactions with the couple? How did you get along with them both?
I think very well. They were really open to me, and I mean, my background's quite formal, so it was quite an informal setting. I was able to ask questions to either of them. Ms. Heard especially, it was really helpful to get information about what time they wanted dinner, basic stuff like that, or anything. It was good interaction all the time.
Information
with the both of them.
Okay. Now you mentioned wine. Can you tell us to what extent did you observe either of them consume alcohol over the course of these 4 weeks?
Sure. When I started that job, or when I was taking that job on, I was told, I think by Mr. Depp's assistant, that he was...
Hearsay.
Sorry.
Can you answer without telling what you were told?
I was made aware that Mr. Depp was...
Hearsay, everybody.
Same objection. He's explaining what he was been told. Now he just said I was informed.
I don't think it's offered for the truth, Your Honor. I think it's just offered to explain his own behavior towards the couple.
No, can we approach?
Okay.
So what's at issue here is what the butler was told with regard to alcohol consumption. My guess is that the Amber Heard side, well, I don't know what, let's just wait and see what the deal is and why this is so problematic. My guess would be that what he was told may have been something like keep her away from the alcohol or something along those lines. Maybe imagine if he was going to say, well, I was told she gets extremely violent when she drinks, to keep her from the drink. I just don't know, but that's my sense of it. Welcome, everybody, by the way. Yes, welcome. Welcome.
All right, so Mr. King, moving past the conversation, let's not touch on that. But just in general, can you describe the alcohol consumption that you personally observed and what you personally witnessed?
There you go.
Sure. I didn't see Mr. Depp consume any alcohol during that time in London. There was a large consignment of wine that had been delivered to the house at the start of the visit.
A consignment?
Many cases that I had to store, had to find a place to store. And generally speaking, on a day-to-day, about 1 or 2 bottles of red wine were consumed per day. I think that's fair to say.
By her, I guess, right?
Did you ever observe Mr. Depp drink any of the wine?
No, I didn't.
Right, okay.
Did you ever observe Ms. Heard drink any of the wine?
Yes, I did.
Regularly?
Daily.
2 bottles a day is a lot.
Now, I think you already testified that you observed interactions with Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard, and you generally found them to be friendly. Is that fair?
Very much so, yes.
Were there any exceptions to that?
Towards me? Oh.
I'll rephrase. Did you ever observe any arguments between the two?
Yes, I did.
I'll allow it. That's fine. Go ahead.
Man, that guy's got to sit
You can
down.
answer.
Oh, yes, I did, yeah.
Okay, and can you describe for us the arguments that you observed?
I can describe 2 of them, certainly. There were a few arguments on that during that month.
Well, let's just start with those 2.
Okay. The first one I remember was an evening. Actually, they were both the ones I recall were, and I was close to, were evenings. This first particular evening, the couple were due to go out for dinner, I guess. I know the car was waiting in the little courtyard there, ready for them to go, and security were waiting to take them. I was waiting to see them out into the car. I was at the foot of on the ground floor level, to wait to see them out, essentially. And the first thing I heard was Miss Heard shouting upstairs in the master suite where they were getting ready to leave. I heard her shout something, I don't recall what. I was in the vicinity, I wasn't really there to listen. And I heard footsteps, loud footsteps, sort of going across, there's like a corridor, if you like, at the top of those stairs that went around the master suite. Loud footsteps, and then more footsteps following, more shouting. and that sort of went on for some time. I mean, I knew that what time they needed to leave. I don't recall what time that was, but I knew they were supposed to have left already, and it went on for a bit.
Do you recall how that first fight or argument resolved?
No, not necessarily. I mean, I know that they left eventually, albeit late. I don't know how it
I like this guy.
really resolved, because I sort of made myself busy, but not going too far away from the door to make sure I saw them out.
Quite
All right, and
clever.
then what about the second argument that you mentioned?
Second one, I was pretty much in the same vicinity, the same room on the ground floor. Again, the couple were in the TV room, I think, which was off the main sitting room, early evening, and I was going about my early evening duties, replenishing drinks close by,
My
lighting the fire,
ablutions.
lighting candles, whatever it might have been. I was close enough to hear Miss Heard say, "Why did you take your hand away from me, Johnny? Don't you love me anymore?" Like, not in a playful way.
This guy's got a Texas accent, right?
And I think he replied, "Of course I do, don't be silly. Of course I do." And it kind of launched from that point. And at one point, Mr. Depp got up and went to the bathroom or went upstairs, and I was sort of scuttling around out of the way because I wasn't there listening. I was just there doing my stuff in and around them. Yeah, it was a strange, sort of banal way to start an argument, but
How would you describe Miss Heard's tone when she said, "Why did you take your hand away, Johnny?"
accusatory, spoilt teenage child, maybe. Is that fair?
Whoa.
Pretty, not playfully, let's put it that way, more angrily.
Over the course of the 4 weeks in August and September 2014, when you were working with Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard in London,
Yes.
did you ever observe any physical violence of any kind between the two of them?
No, I didn't.
Did you ever observe any injuries on either one of them?
No, neither of them.
Okay. After those 4 weeks, did you ever work for Mr. Depp or Ms. Heard again?
I did, a couple of occasions. The following year was the first one, the following spring,
Okay, and where was that?
in Australia.
And was it unusual for you to be in Australia?
In Australia, maybe, but not unusual for me to travel for clients for my assignments to wherever it was needed.
Okay. How exactly did it come about that you were in Australia with Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard?
Towards the end of the London visit, Mr. Depp had kindly said, thanks so much for looking after us. We really like you. Maybe if you're free next year and we can arrange it, we can make it happen. Perhaps you'll be able to come to Australia with us. I've got to film Pirates 5. So I said, great, I'd love to. Obviously, I was freelance at the time, so it was going to be about 4 months' work. I think it was billed as. So I thought, yes, I wouldn't mind some of that. Thank you very much.
And where in Australia were you staying?
It was the Gold Coast, yeah, but sort of Brisbane area. Brisbane was the main airport, so it's about an hour's drive south of Brisbane.
Okay. And do you recall when you arrived?
I arrived on February the 4th. I know I flew on that day.
Okay. How did your job responsibilities in Australia compare to your job responsibilities in London?
Much the same, just on a bigger scale. The house was larger. There was a bit more setup to do, but essentially the same oversight of the house, responsible for it during the whole.
If my butler was ever cross-examined, I would head for the hills, guys. I'm telling you right now.
Who were you employed by?
Essentially by Disney, the production company affiliated with Disney, who were making the movie. I think their name was Herschel, was the production company.
Now, I think you said you arrived in Australia on February 4th, 2015? Do I have that right?
Yes.
Okay. How about Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard? When did they arrive?
The setup for us was about a few weeks. I think they arrived towards the end of February 2015.
And between your arrival and their arrival, what had you been doing?
Just setting up the house. I lived on site. There was a guest house on site, a 2-bedroom, single-story guest house that I stayed in for those first couple of weeks, setting up the house and just getting everything ready during that time. And then
I think what is fascinating about this trial, other than, you know, the incredible obscene wealth that's exposed through British butlers and all of these different things, and the fact that at minimum, you know, there was abuse going both ways, to put it kind of agnostically, I guess, or neutrally so far, although that may not even be warranted, is that everybody's straight out of central casting. I mean, Johnny Depp, during his testimony, essentially one of his best acting roles I've ever seen. Every movement, every expression. The Butler is straight out of central casting. It's truly incredible.
a good sized house, beautiful location.
How many entrances would you say it had?
Entrances, many. I mean, many certainly on the lower ground level out to the garden. On the first or on the main floor level, there was many entrances. I mean,
Master Depp allowed us to eat at least once every week.
every room on the lower ground floor had a sliding door or a door out. The utility room, the garage, the gym, everything. Obviously the front door. Many. On the main level, the large glass sliding doors out to the pool area, which had a gazebo and steps down to the ground.
Okay, and once Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard arrived to stay at this house, was anybody else staying in the house?
Staying in the house, no.
Was anybody else staying on the grounds?
On the property, yes. I mean, there was a couple there, caretaking couple, Sean and his wife, Sandra, who worked for the owner of the house. They lived on site essentially all the time. They were there pretty much throughout. And their house was, whatever, a couple of 100 yards away from the main house. And yes, security were there also.
All right, sticking with the caretaker just briefly, about how long would you estimate it would take to walk from the main house to the caretaker's house?
Under 5 minutes. I mean, yeah.
Minutes.
No more than 5 minutes.
Wow.
Okay. And then you mentioned security. What was the security setup?
Security was set up by Jerry Judge. They were employed. They stayed in the grounds for the duration. They didn't come into the house. They had a little sort of shack round by the perimeter wall, where they would start their patrols from, walk around the grounds, around the exterior of the house at certain times of the day, write their reports, and go back and stay in their shack.
And how many security guards would be on site at any particular time?
I think one in the day and one in the night, so they did sort of 12 hours about, as I remember it.
But it was 24/7?
Yes, definitely.
Okay. Do you know whether those were local employees or were they regularly employed?
I believe they were Australian, yes.
Okay. Now, I think you said you were not.
It was a ghastly 1,200 square foot shack.
Correct, yeah. I kept the same hours as I did in London, essentially. Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, not quite, but 7, 8 a.m. till evening, till everything was set up and I could leave.
Okay. And did you have an opportunity when you were in Australia to observe Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard's interactions with each other?
Yes, of course.
And how would you describe them?
Initially very good, like in London. It seemed very pleasant towards each other.
Did you observe any arguments?
Yes. I had several.
Okay, can you tell us a little bit about those?
Yes. A similar pattern, it seemed, to London arguments. One in particular was very similar to the second one in London.
Quite jarring.
Started in the TV room, funnily enough. Loud voices, and Mr. Depp leaving the room, shutting the door, going to another room to play his guitar or, to a bathroom, whatever. And Miss Heard closely following and opening the door or certainly rapping on the door.
Elements of bathrooms.
It seemed to continue.
Give us an estimate about how many arguments you think you observed in this time frame, approximately.
Several. I mean, we were there for several months, so certainly many more than in London.
Did you observe any alcohol consumption in Australia by either of them?
Yes, again, Ms. Heard, I was, again, part of my responsibilities was to provision the house and have everything set up for that. So I regularly brought red wine for Miss Heard, which she consumed, the same amount as in London, I think.
And what amount is that?
Generally speaking, 1 or 2 bottles a day.
Okay.
Wow.
Did you ever observe Mr. Depp start any arguments with Ms. Heard?
No.
Oh, sorry, hold on, objection.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, could you put your mic, there we go.
Leading.
Objection.
Leading.
I'll sustain this to leading if you want.
Okay, we can move on.
New question. Okay.
Do you remember anything about Friday, March 6th?
Couldn't you say, did you notice any pattern to the initiator of the arguments? So it's more neutral.
Essentially a normal Friday, if you like. End of the week. Yay. Nothing extraordinary about that day.
Did you come into work that day?
Yes, yeah, I was there.
Okay. Do you recall about what time you would have left the house on that date?
I remember taking a photo of a beautiful sunset over the pool. The sun would set over the pool and the creek. I took a photo of that around early evening, so 6:37. I would think I wouldn't have left much later than that.
Was Mr. Depp there when you left?
I don't think so. I think Mr. Depp was at the studio still on that day. I can't remember sort of seeing him to say goodbye. Have a good weekend.
How about Ms. Heard? Do you recall if she was there when you left?
Yes, she was.
Okay. Did anything unusual happen that weekend?
Yeah, I would say something pretty unusual happened.
Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I can.
Foundation.
All right, foundation. You want to lay a foundation?
At some point, did you become aware that something had happened between
Yes.
Mr. Depp and Ms.
To the
Heard?
extent it calls for hearsay.
All right,
Hearsay.
I'll sustain that objection.
Okay, let's see how he works around this.
Turning to the following Sunday.
Ms. Williams, how much more do you have? Because it's time for our afternoon break. If
I think we can. I have a little bit more, Your Honor, so I think maybe this would
Okay.
be a good time for a
All
break.
right, let's go ahead and take our afternoon 15-minute break, ladies and gentlemen. Again, do not talk to Benny. But
All right, so they're building up to a particular incident here. Now, I'll tell you guys, I am primarily interested in this as an observer of high-profile trials, as a personal interest thing about how others are reacting to it. There are people who feel very strongly that, oh, I'm sorry, hold on a second. If we are going to break.
By the way, how are the calzones? Pizza is here, but we have Subway tomorrow. The food is here. Let's take a break. Lunch is here. Warm food around noon. Whatever you do, make sure you go to the bathroom somewhere other than the courtroom.
Okay, so having admonished everybody properly with regard to that, there are lots of people who are just emailing me saying Amber Heard is the abuser here, and the abuser. There's an uphill battle because it is assumed that in this case, the man more than 20 years older is obviously the abuser. But in this case, many people emailing me saying it's not the case. I don't feel as though I've seen enough of this to make such a definitive statement. I think what I've seen enough to know the relationship was insane. They weren't particularly good to each other in some general sense. They both seem to have serious issues, including substance abuse. Johnny Depp, maybe not so much alcohol, but other drugs, and Amber Heard, maybe more alcohol. And as far as from what a jury would find, I'm reading that the jury is finding Johnny Depp very sympathetic. So, okay. I think that's kind of my view right now as someone who doesn't pretend to have seen every minute of this. So I think we can leave it at that. They're going to be back in just a few minutes, so we'll continue. I do plan to stream tonight Tonight is the Pennsylvania Republican Senate debate with Mehmet Oz, who is a medical doctor, although he sometimes recommends drinking silver. He is a medical doctor. He is one of the candidates. I do plan to cover that tonight. What might prevent me from doing so is if we can't find a stream of the debate. There's a bunch of local news stations covering that tonight. And unfortunately, local news stations are very litigious when it comes to copyright. So I'm going to think about the best way to cover it. And I hope to cover it and be back later. They're probably only going another hour here, so we'll cover the rest of this. I do want to thank everybody who has dropped in a Twitch Prime subscription today. That includes Patty McNinja, Graham Sassenach, Jen here, Living Aaron, and Polo Dow. I also want to thank some incredible people. These people deserve the Presidential Medal of Freedom, who have signed up on my website. Robert Smith is a new member on my website and is number 6. We've also gotten a new gifted subscription from Kevin Gouldy, Felicia Barrera, Judah Diaz, and Melissa Tarnoff, each of them gifting a subscription at joinpacman.com. And that puts us at number 10. I should give away. I have to announce. Sorry, I wasn't prepared for so many gifts dumping in. Let me announce who gets those 4 gifted subscriptions while we are in a break here. Those 4 go to, hold on. I'm sorry. Let's see here. Bryce Wright, Quinn Jacobson, Tessa Gibson, and, Robert got one over. And no, that's the wrong one too. Hold on. Oh, no, that's not. We're almost there. Catherine Logue is the 4th person getting a free membership today. If you don't have a membership, get one at joinpacman.com. You can use the coupon code Obamna. If you have a membership and you want to gift one to somebody else, you still go to joinpacman.com, but you check that this is a gift box as you check out. Penn Live will be streaming tonight. Maybe use their stream. Okay, I'll look into that. Hey, does anybody know what time the Pennsylvania debate is tonight? Thanks, viewer Andy, by the way, for the Twitch Prime subscription. Anybody know what time the Pennsylvania Senate debate is tonight? I thought it was 8 p.m. Pennsylvania Republican Senate debate, April 25, 2022. When is this thing? Let's see here. Oh, God, I'm getting blocked out of everywhere from my ad blocker. It will only be an hour. 8 p.m. Okay, so my plan is I will... No, it can't be 7 p.m. It says everywhere that it's 8 p.m. Everything I'm seeing is 8 p.m. Anyway, I'll start a half hour before the debate, whenever it is. And I believe that it's at 8 p.m. We'll get it figured out between now and then. I haven't added these to my soundboard yet, but our great friend Small Fuzzy Moss, who's responsible for about 80-ish% of the different clips I have on my soundboard, sent me some great new clips from the Saturday night Trump rally. It's unbelievable, the treasure trove of clips that we got from Trump went on a 5-minute toilet rant. And so listen to some of these that we got.
And I won't talk about the third element of a bathroom, because every time I do, the fake news only talks about that.
Yep.
And I won't talk about the third element of a bathroom.
Okay.
1 time, 2 times, 5 times, 10 times. No water comes out.
That's Trump flushing.
And you can do that other thing normally, all right? The third element of the bathroom.
Yeah. Okay.
He's walking around, somewhat bewildered. No idea what the hell is happening.
Okay.
So I got gas.
Yep. And then lastly.
No teacher should ever be allowed to teach transgender.
Okay. So that was just a crazy stream. And we're going to get a lot of those adopted into our repertoire very, very soon. Thanks to Jody Bundrick for donating subscription number 12. The lucky recipient is Sarah Schmeltzer. Sarah Schmeltzer, congratulations. You get a free subscription. I really appreciate that. Other news, yes. So Elon Musk is buying Twitter. Twitter has accepted Elon Musk's buyout deal. Twitter's board accepted billionaire Elon Musk's offer to buy the social media company and take it private. Full disclosure, I own no Twitter stock other than through, I assume, mutual funds. I don't know. The announcement ends a weeks-long saga Musk kicked off when he offered to buy the company at $54.20 per share. That was his best and final. Twitter's board sought to fend off a hostile takeover by adopting a so-called poison pill. Twitter reacting quite positively to the news, shares up 5, close to 6%. So that's a very, very big deal. And, you know, I get all these people who are constantly wanting me to stake out some kind of black and white position on Elon Musk. My view on a lot of these big tech CEOs is sort of like my view of politicians. I don't idolize or demonize almost anybody unless like they really, really deserve it. As many of you know, I've owned Tesla stock back since 2015. I drive a Tesla. The car's fine. You know, I'm not like, oh my God, this is what you got, a Hyundai Ioniq? Oh, go to prison, you know, or you know, like lawsuit.
We're doing a class action lawsuit against all machines.
Okay, no, I don't care about that. It's like the cars are fine. There's no doubt that Tesla accelerated the development of long-range electric vehicles dramatically. That's great. And Elon Musk also tweets stupid shit all the time that I disagree with. What I don't love is a few people owning every big company. That seems like a problem for me. I don't like that. But the whole thing of Musk is evil, he's a savior, there's all these fanboys. It's like, I've learned that when Elon Musk sets his mind to doing something, it's very hard to get him not to do it. Betting against him seems dumb based on a track record. And at the same time, he says so many dumb things and creates problems and says stuff I don't agree with. Bill Gates, what Bill Gates did in terms of the personal computing revolution, and Steve Jobs, and I'm not taking any sides, is incredible. And also Bill Gates, you know, with the monopolistic elements of Microsoft and all these things is a problem. So it's let's all just relax a little bit. It's sort of like, oh, but we pray at the altar of Tulsi or Bernie or no, all of that stuff. Nobody is 100% anything. Yeah, and maybe what he's going to do is we'll destroy Twitter. Who knows? I don't know. I don't have any idea. I'm not a Twitter investor. I just don't know. Okay. And Wozniak and everybody. I know everybody. We're not ignoring anybody here. Okay. Let's see. Let's listen to just a couple of voicemails as we continue waiting for the resumption. Here's the Eggman weighing in.
Hey, Dave. I heard that guy at the Trump rally say he's seen Jerry Garcia tons and tons of times, and, you know, a Trump rally is better than a Dead show and smells better.
Yep.
Dave, I've seen the Grateful Dead maybe 100 times, maybe more.
Wow.
All with Jerry Garcia. You wouldn't believe it, but there is a right-wing chunk of Deadheads. And when we used to mail order our tickets, we would mail in our tickets every single summer. So we would sit in the same section the whole entire summer long. Like 20 shows, 30 shows the whole summer.
Is the Eggman okay? He's got a really annoying throat clearing thing going on. I hope it's not COVID.
One section in front of Phil, in the front, the Phil zone, with all these right-wing Republican dudes with like button-up Izod polo shirts and, of course, killer fucking weed. And it was really weird. And we would have discussions, political discussions, left-wing or right-wing, and I couldn't believe Republicans were there. But these people were not as crazy as the Trumpers today that are telling you I still have flags up. We did have a political discourse. We discussed stuff back then. There are right-wing deadheads. Not very many, but there are. Shalom, brother.
All right. Well, shalom. Very, very interesting. Whitney checking in. It's been a while since we heard from her.
I think a lot of men make such small moves that it's like hard to really detect exactly what they're doing unless you like, you know, just like sit and watch like life go by, which is what I see them doing a lot.
Pretty insightful.
What I see a lot of men do who make really small moves. And
all right. And then Eric from Mass weighing in as well.
Yeah, David, it's Eric from Mass. What Candace Owens says is absolutely right. I told you the guy, doctor I have, explained the whole thing to me. If you want to know details, proof, or evidence, just contact me.
Right.
I mean, evidently you don't, because I've asked you to do that several times.
Yeah, no, I typically don't call viewers on the phone. Yeah.
You can email me at EJ.
Whoa. Okay. All right. I don't even. Let's just get away from that. That seems like a bad direction to go on the show. So let's not even do that. I want to say thanks to Betsy Cook. Betsy just gifted a subscription at joinpacman.com. The lucky recipient is Jacob. Oh, wait, no, that one we did already. I'm sorry. Let me get to the right one. These are like in a weird order. Let me just see here. Brad Ray is the lucky recipient of the next free subscription. If you would like a free subscription, just enter your name at davidpacman.com/free membership. We currently have 695 people waiting for free memberships. Significant demand. Significant demand. So we're going to look at that very, very strongly. Let's see if I have any other voicemails for people. Let's do like a normal voicemail.
So my dad got adopted from England, and when the Germans found him, his name was like Philip.
Oh, well, okay. We don't want to dox Whitney's dad. That seems like a bad idea. Let's keep going.
Hi, my name is Cindy, and I live in Minnesota. I just watched the interview that David did with J.R. I can't pronounce his last name, from Ohio.
Majewski.
And I thought it was a really good interview because, you know, we do need to talk both sides, but I would have been interested to hear what type, or not what type, but what news stations this fellow watches.
Fox News, yeah. Welcome to TYT. Thank you for the raid over on Twitch. TYT has raided us. We're listening to audience voicemails. And in about 5 minutes, Johnny Depp and Amber Heard's Butler will continue to be asked. He is getting to a critical moment in the testimony, which we are following with great interest. Also, tonight, around 8 p.m. Eastern, I'll be covering the Mehmet Oz Republican Pennsylvania Senate debate. If you look at, let's actually do that. 270 to win. If you look right now at the Senate maps, one of the things you see is that in just about every map, so here's the 2022 consensus map, Pennsylvania is a toss-up. If you look at Larry Sabato's crystal ball, Pennsylvania is a toss-up. If you look at the Cook political map, Pennsylvania is a toss-up. If you look at Inside Elections, Pennsylvania is leaning red. If you look at Politico, it's a toss-up. If you, okay, well, that's it. So the point here is Mehmet Oz versus John Fetterman, if they are the winners of their respective primaries, could determine the balance of power in the Senate starting in January of 2023. So it's an incredibly important race. And that's why we will be covering the debate tonight. And I hope that you're there with us. Let's listen to a couple of other voicemails here.
Hey, David Bookman. I love to say that. Hey, here's an idea for your channel. Why don't you give your watchers Marjorie Taylor Greene's phone numbers? 202-22.
Oh, my God. Okay, are you nuts? No. Oh, my God. What? I don't even know if that woman has Marjorie's. What the hell do people think this is? This is not. Maybe those types of shows exist, but dear God, please don't call in and give people people's cell phones. Oh, my God. We have people from TYT here, and this is what I'm playing. It's humiliating. Let's listen to something else.
Hi, David. I couldn't help but respond to the Eggman's take on you being asked to provide some information about what certain Yiddish words mean.
Mm-hmm.
I am a boomer. I'm a cisgender, straight, college-educated woman. So in a lot of ways, I am a person of privilege.
Whoa.
And so I can only speak from that perspective. But in terms of asking you to define certain Yiddish words, I don't feel like it's any different from asking a person that I know from France what certain French words might mean.
Yeah, I think it's fine. I said I think it's fine. As I said before, if someone needs me to explain what a shtickle of fluoride is, the Seinfeld fans will get that one. I think it's fine. People are saying Elon Musk bought Twitter. Yeah, so he didn't buy it yet. They've reached an agreement to use the financing he has put together to take it private. So even the people saying Elon just bought Twitter are wrong. We've already spoken about it. And it's a very, very interesting thing. Okay. A couple of other I know we have limited time before they return, but let's just see what else we have. Let's see.
Hello, David. Pac-Man. I'm just wondering if, for the past 2 to 3 weeks, I have gone onto YouTube, and I have noticed something at the Majority Report. It seems like Sam Cedar is MIA. There's no discussion about his mysterious disappearance.
Hey, so is that true? Do people? Oh, okay. I wasn't sure if Sam. What? Oh no, Sam was public that he had COVID. Yeah, all right. I was like, I don't want to say anything that's not known. But right. Okay, yeah. Sam has COVID or had COVID. That's all that's going on. He announced it. It sounds like he's going to be fine, and we are getting back to it here. Okay, so let's listen.
Sorry, thank you.
Critical moment here in the trial. Yeah, welcome everybody. People that are coming in, they're like, am I allowed here? Everybody's allowed, okay? Come on in. Come on. Elon wants to crack down on bots, says Bayphoto. But don't the creators of Elon crypto scam bots that reply to all his tweets have free speech too? Right. Well said. Well said. This is the Butler for those just joining us. Welcome to Caleb Hunter. Caleb just got a membership on my website and is number 14 today. Thanks, Caleb. And thanks to everybody re-upping their Twitch Prime subscriptions as well. Guys, everything's welcome. Everything's welcome. Just everybody's welcome here, okay? Sam was back today. Oh, good. Okay, good. I didn't know that. I was texting with him the other day. I said because he got COVID, I'm going to destroy my panels, which I stole from him just as a sign of good faith. Very respectful Butler.
All right, you have a seat. Your next question, sir.
Professionally trained.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. King,
Yes.
Before we went on break, we were discussing Friday, March 6th, 2015.
Right.
After you left the house that evening, when did you next see Ms. Heard?
Sunday the 8th.
And where did you see Ms. Heard?
At the house.
What were your typical hours?
Monday to Friday from 7 or 8 a.m. till the end of play each evening, early evening usually.
Why were you at the house that Sunday?
I was called to the house by one of Mr. Depp's assistants.
And about what time did you arrive at the house?
Around 2 o'clock, 2:30.
Who was there when you arrived?
Debbie Lloyd was there. David Kipper was there. Amber Heard was there. Jerry Judge was there.
And I think by now probably everybody's familiar, but can you just very quickly say who those people are?
Sure. Debbie Lloyd was a nurse. David Kipper was Dr. David Kipper. Ms. Heard was Miss Heard, and Jerry Judge was head of security.
And when you arrived at the house on Sunday, March 8th, 2015, what did you do?
I just parked up and went into the house.
And did you observe anything when you went into the house?
Yeah, I mean, initially I walked into the front door. Initially I heard, rather than saw anything, I could hear pretty hysterical sobbing, crying. which sounded like misheard to me. I heard Jerry Judge's voice. There's a few steps as you go up into the house, so you can't immediately see what's going on. But so I went up the steps. I could see, then misheard over on the right-hand side, over towards the TV room with Jerry Judge. David Kipper was in the kitchen area, which was pretty much directly ahead as you walk up those steps.
And were you able to visually see Miss Heard?
Yes.
And you were able to hear her as well?
Absolutely.
How would you describe her demeanor?
Hysterical, probably the best way to describe it. Crying a lot, and just crying uncontrollably. I think it's fair to say.
And how would you describe Jerry Judge's demeanor when he was speaking with her?
He was just keeping her calm, saying, "It's all right, love. It will be all right." Jerry was good, like he had a big heart. Jerry, he's a good guy. He was calm. Jerry was always calm. Well, mostly.
And what did you do next?
I saw they were engaged across away there, so I went into the main kitchen area, which, as I said, was just directly ahead of those main steps, and spoke to David Kipper.
And following that conversation, what did you do?
Well, he told me that Mr. Depp had...
Objection, hearsay.
All right.
Your Honor, may we approach?
Okay.
This is clearly a critical moment, this incident that they're referring to. Thanks to Daigen Bear for the Twitch Prime subscription. This is just stream 1 of 2 today. We'll be covering the Mehmet Oz Republican loony debate tonight from the Pennsylvania Senate. I expect it to be quite weaponized, for lack of a better term. No word on what Johnny Depp is chewing on. Looks like it could be a bag of nuts, potentially. Sort of unclear. I don't know how many more days this is going to go on, but it certainly feels like we're not anywhere even remotely close to the end. Not even remotely close. I would guess we're not even halfway through, to be perfectly frank. All right, here we go.
So you can answer the question. What did you do next?
So I spoke to David Kipper, who was in the kitchen area, seemingly rummaging through a bin. He said that Mr. Depp had sustained an injury to his finger, one of his fingers, and he was looking for the fingertip that it said it had been severed. So I said, well, shall I help you? As one would. And he said, yeah, that would be a good idea. I left him in the kitchen. He said there was a lot more damage downstairs. So I went to, we split up. He left him in the kitchen. I went downstairs to search.
At some point, was Mr. Depp's fingertip found?
Yes.
Who found it?
I did.
And where did you find it?
Downstairs in the bar area, the games room bar area.
So, can you walk us through how you found it?
Yes, so I walked down the stairs. There was a bit of damage down the steps. That a big chunk had been taken out of the marble staircase. On my way down, with remnants of what looked like a plant pot or something around it, smashed. Walking down into the bar, I could see the damage that Dr. Kipper had told me about. A broken ping pong table sort of collapsed onto the floor, and lots of glass and broken glass and cans strewn around the bar area.
And where exactly was the finger in the bar area?
Directly below the bar. The bar was set up like a conventional bar that stuck out from a wall, and with a marble top. There's a big chunk out of that as well, like on the staircase. Directly at the end of the bar, there was a scrunched up piece of kitchen paper, if you like, tissue, with lots of blood around it, on it. So I thought that was probably a pretty good place to look. And it was within that scrunched up piece of paper on the tiled floor at the end of the bar, the base of the bar by one of the bar stools.
Was there any property damage around the finger?
Yes, a fair bit. On the floor around that area, there were puddles of what smelt like alcohol to me. There were, seemed like several drinking glasses, a couple of bottles. One was a Stolichnaya vodka bottle.
I know it as Stoli, but Stolichnaya is an interesting one.
Out of the bar itself, the bar marble top. At the end of the bar, there was plaster damage right at the end of the bar on the wall. Behind the bar, smashed and cracked mirror. There's a blue mirror that stretched that whole span of behind the bar. Lots of cans again behind the bar on the floor. Broken window at the end of the bar, and more plastered work damage on the wall above the sink. It was sort of a kitchenette bar, if you like, as well.
You mentioned a bottle of vodka. Was the vodka bottle intact?
No. No, nothing was really intact. The top of it, you know, the top of a bottle is like, it had a label on it, which is how I knew it was a Stolichnaya bottle. It had that sort of squiggly S, sort of yellow top. There was a large chunk of a bottle, which I guess was the rest of that, and several other, lots of other broken glass around the area.
After you found the fingertip in the bar area, what did you do next?
Well, I gathered it up in that kitchen paper and sort of took it upstairs. I might have shouted up to David Kipper, I found it. I'm not sure, but I walked back upstairs to the kitchen and got a bag, little plastic bag, put the fingertip in there, set it on top of some ice in this plastic kitchen container, and pretty much handed it over to David Kipper and Jerry Judge, I think, at the time, who were keen to get it to the hospital quickly to see if it could be reattached.
Do you recall about what time you found Mr. Depp's finger in the bar area?
It was about an hour after I got there, so it would have been around 3:30, I would think, 3:20, 3:30.
Wow.
Now, you've told us a little bit about the state the house was in when you arrived.
Yes.
Can you generally describe for us, and maybe go level by level through the house, what damage you observed?
Sure. Do you want me to start at the lower ground floor in that bar area? I've described a lot of that.
Sure, that's fine.
It was pretty extensive down there, all that broken glass, the blood. There were a lot of blood drips across that floor. It was a kind of cream-coloured tiled floor.
Can you imagine?
In that whole games area. As I said, the ping pong table was collapsed. Blood drips across the floor and around the bar. And the damage on the walls, as I said, the plaster work at the end of the bar, behind the bar, and the chunk out of the marble top. So on the ground, that was the predominant damage in that area, on that level. On the next floor, on the main floor where David Kipper was, in the kitchen itself, again, a few broken glasses and cans on the floor, soda cans behind the kitchen island, the chef's kitchen island, liquid sort of puddles. There was a sitting room with a couch on a cream-coloured couch, which had a fair amount of blood drips on the cushions, and that was obvious. The TV, which was directly in front of that wall-mounted TV, was cracked with, it seemed like remnants of a coffee cup embedded in some of it, and the rest was below, looked like coffee splattered behind and underneath the TV, and on the floor as well. Through there, we'd set up an art studio. So a lot of the art materials from that, paintbrushes, paint, various art materials were on the floor. A lot of paint on the floor. Blood dripped throughout that area as well, especially over it was a vast sort of wooden parquet floor. There was a lot of oil paint and blood drips up to the staircase. In one of the bedrooms, there were 2 bedrooms off of the main kitchen area. One of those bedrooms had blood drips on the duvet, and a lamp had seemingly been broken. The shade was removed. There were a couple of lampshades in the art studio area on the floor. That was about the extent of the damage. Going upstairs to the next level, there was a few blood smears on the wall and on the...
I don't think Johnny Depp is sleeping, but it's certainly not impossible. Oh, no, he just moved.
Not ideal. And so that's the top floor was the master bedroom, master suite floor, and 2 bedrooms also up there. Outside the master bedroom, there was damage to the plaster work on a pillar outside.
Maybe he is sleeping.
Blood drips into the master bedroom, across the master bedroom floor. Going into the master bathroom, there was a his and hers sink and a mirror, a large mirror above each of the sinks that had writing on each of them. Again, one of the bedrooms, or both of the bedrooms, I think, had blood on the duvet covers, and another lamp was broken. And Mr. Depp's guitar was in one of those bedrooms, a blood-stained guitar. His iPad was standing up on one of the beds in one of those bedrooms. That's about the extent of it.
That's the damage
on each level, yeah.
Whose job was it to clean all that up?
It was mine. It was mine. My responsibility. The house was essentially my responsibility.
So were you familiar with the damage generally throughout the house?
I got a pretty good idea as I walked around and saw it all, yes.
Did you observe any damaged phones?
No.
Did you observe any damage to a wall where a phone might have been ripped off the wall?
No.
Bleeding.
Oh,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Maybe the next one.
Was there any artwork in this house? Decorating the house?
The owners had left their art in the house, yes. Mr. Depp and Miss Heard had done some artwork themselves, yes. But, yes, there was some that came with the house, if you like.
Focusing just on the artwork that came with the house, did you observe any damage to any of that?
No, nothing that I needed to repair or replace. Certainly not. Thank goodness.
Is there any other damage that comes to mind?
Just a lot of blood, a lot of repairs. The floor, as I said, was quite heavily with blood and paint. Yeah.
And in terms of bodily fluids, it was just blood that you observed, no urine or anything else?
Yes,
All
absolutely.
right, I'll sustain I'll strike the answer from the record.
Oh.
No other damage. Does any other damage come to mind?
No.
Okay.
No
Let's
grumpies?
take a look at Defendant's Exhibit 375, which I believe is already in evidence.
Yes.
And can we publish this to the jury?
Okay.
Mr. King, are you familiar with the image that's on the screen in front of you?
Yes, it's one of the mirrors I was telling you about in the master bathroom.
And so, were you involved in cleaning any of this up?
I cleaned both of those mirrors at some point that evening, that night. Yes.
Were you able to tell what was used or what substance the I guess, what sort of the ink is that's used on the black writing there?
That was the same oil paint that was on the floor, on the parquet floor downstairs and various other places. It was the same oil paint.
All right. How about the red writing that says, call Carly Simon, she said it better, babe. Were you able to tell what was used to make that writing?
Lipstick, I believe.
Foundation. Objection foundation.
He's testified that he was cleaning it up.
I'll allow it. That's fine. Go ahead.
It certainly seemed like lipstick to me, red lipstick. It was quite waxy. I remember taking that off. It seemed like lipstick.
Okay, we can take that down. Mr. King, about how long were you at the house on that Sunday?
Quite a long time. It actually went into the early hours of Monday morning, so at least I got there around 2 in the afternoon of Sunday. I don't think I left there until 2 or 3 o'clock the next morning of the 9th.
Over the course of the time that you were there that day, did you have any interactions with Ms. Heard?
Yes, I certainly did. Yeah.
Can you describe those for us, please?
Yes, not too much initially. She was very, as I said, quite hysterical and crying a lot, and Jerry Judge was taking care of her, keeping her calm. Later in the evening, it was suggested that Ms. Heard go to a local hotel, to leave the house, go to a local hotel, which then became a suggestion that she go back to LA. And that's, I think, when I started interacting in terms of, at some point, I volunteered to travel with her to LA.
Why does she need someone to travel with her?
How did Ms. Heard respond to the suggestion that she leave for Los Angeles?
She was resistant to both of those suggestions, very resistant. She really didn't want to go and said, I can't leave, I can't leave. You know, it'll be the end if I leave. Those sorts of things. And so it was just, these went over a few hours. Those negotiations, if you like. And eventually, Ms. Heard agreed that I would fly with her.
And did you, in fact, fly with her?
I did, on Monday the 9th.
Okay. Sticking with Sunday, when you were interacting with her on that Sunday, how close were you to her?
Very close, very close, in front of her.
And do you recall observing any injuries on Ms. Heard?
No, none whatsoever.
Did you notice anything unusual about her physically at all?
No, she was obviously crying a lot. She had red eyes, but no, otherwise no.
Okay. So what happened the following day, that Monday, March 9th, I guess it would be, 2015?
Right, so, it was eventually agreed that I would fly with Miss Heard, so I had to at some point go back to my apartment, drive to my apartment to pick up my passport, which, funnily enough, I hadn't brought with me, and some clothes, a bag to take. So I think I left the house early hours, as I said, 2, 3, may have been a bit later, a.m. I drove back to my apartment, which was 30 minutes drive south, picked up those things. I didn't know how long I was going to go for, but I knew I was traveling, so passport, quick shower, pick up a bag of clothes, and I drove back up to the house. I don't recall exactly what time I arrived there, but I know we had to leave. All the arrangements were being made by the travel agent, and Jerry Judge was liaising with them to make the flight arrangements, and which I believe was going mid to late morning. So I think we had to leave the house around 7 or 8 a.m. that morning, Monday the 9th.
And did you travel to the airport with Ms. Heard?
Yes, we were driven.
How would you describe her demeanor that morning?
Calmed down a fair bit. She was mostly on the phone, to be honest, for pretty much the whole of that car journey to various people, one of which I believe was Mr. Depp.
Do you recall her saying anything on the ride to the airport about what had happened the night prior?
Nothing really mentioned in that as way of an explanation, no.
What happened when you got to the airport, if anything?
We were running a bit late, but I remember that. Luckily, we were traveling first class, so the driver knew to pull up to a kind of VIP, for want of a better word, VIP check-in point. And so the car got pretty close to where the desk was. Miss Heard was still on the phone, and so we sat there for a bit with the driver, and Miss Heard was talking. I don't know who to at that point. And I was thinking, we need to make this flight actually pretty soon because we were already running a bit late. So I decided to go in, maybe I can go in, check in our bags ahead, and then come back and get Miss Heard. She should be finished by then, which is what I did.
And did you eventually get on the plane?
Eventually we did. It was a close call, to be honest.
Once you were on the plane, did you have any conversations with Miss Heard?
Yes, I mean, not initially, which took some time in the bathroom. She was on the phone again to the point where the cabin crew had to sort of tap on the door and say, we need to leave now.
God.
Everybody needs to sit down.
I've been around this type of stuff on flights. There's a level of entitlement that is very annoying. I just had a crazy one, but this isn't about me.
And luckily, as I said, we were flying first class, which was lovely. She was in the window seat, like I think it was 1A, 1B window seat. I had the aisle seat. And finally, we could both sit down, and in way of conversation, wasn't a great deal, to be honest. I did sort of say, finally, so what happened? You know, obviously referring to the house. And I mean, she didn't give much explanation, if any. She did say, Ben, have you ever been so angry with someone you just lost it with them? And I sort of said, no. Actually, I'm a pretty calm, even-tempered guy. But she did repeat it. She looked pretty incredulous that I hadn't. And she repeated it. You mean you've never lost it with somebody, got so angry with someone you just lost it with them? And I said, unless you count the sort of time when I was 14 years old and I hit the light switch in my bedroom because I wasn't allowed out that night or something. With a person, no, never.
Never.
And that was pretty much the end of the conversation. She dropped it.
That was it.
How would you describe her tone when she asked those questions of you?
To me, incredulous, would be fair to say.
You've never cut someone's finger off?
I hadn't lost it with somebody.
Does anything else stand out about that flight?
It was fairly calm. After that, it was calm. But I mean, we were both exhausted. I certainly was. And I think, I can't remember eating either. Just slept most of the flight until obviously we landed, or were close to landing.
At any point, did you observe anything about Miss Heard physically on that flight?
Yes, I did. Right toward just before we landed, I noticed some marks on her arm, her left forearm.
How would you describe those?
Long, kind of uniform, evenly spaced, sort of long, thin marks. Very uniform, in fact.
And when did you first notice those?
On the plane towards coming into land, we're gathering the stuff up. I noticed them then.
Okay. What did you do after you landed in Los Angeles?
Once I'd fired up my phone on landing, I saw the arrangements that we would be picked up by one of Mr. Depp's security personnel, who I think was Travis McGivern. So I made contact with him, and he met us in the place that had been arranged. We walked through the arrivals lounge and met him at the end of that. Got in the car with him and drove to the Eastern Columbia building.
And how would you describe Ms. Heard's demeanor in Los Angeles?
Yeah, pretty calm. I mean, she seemed, obviously a lot calmer from the house, but she pleasant towards Travis, certainly in the car. Obviously they knew each other. When we got to the building, she was kind enough to show me around the apartment. I'd never been before. She showed me around the penthouse, a little tour. She wrote down some restaurants recommendations because she knew I'd be staying a few days probably. So, and I don't really know LA that well. So she recommended a few restaurants. And then I left. I said, if you need anything, as usual, as I always did, need anything, give me a shout. I'll be staying fairly close by. Just give me a call or a text.
How long were you in LA?
Less than a week. I think I flew back to Australia on the 14th or 15th. So about 5 days, 6 days tops.
And when you got back to Australia, what were you doing?
Pretty much putting the house back together, repairing all the damage with the help of professional contracted vendors I brought in, and just getting the house back as it was originally.
At some point, did Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard return to Australia?
Yes, they did.
Were you there when they returned?
Yes.
Did you observe them interacting with each other after they came back to Australia?
Yes, yeah.
And how would you describe their interactions?
Again, initially, those first few days were certainly very pleasant, almost honeymoon-like, I would say. It strolled around the grounds a bit, and they seemed fine with each other.
Did you ever observe any arguments after they returned?
Yes. Many. Several more, yeah.
And how would you describe those?
Not dissimilar to the London arguments in terms of the pattern of those, the sort of provocation and the reaction that leave the room, Mr. Depp leaving room, going to another room, playing his guitar, seemed to follow the same pattern as that, as I witnessed those 2 times in London.
All right. Nothing further.
All right, cross-examination.
Here we go.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So to understand your testimony, is it your testimony that Amber and Mr. Depp arrived together in Australia in February of 2015?
Initially, together I don't think so. I think Mr. Depp arrived ahead of Ms. Heard, actually.
Mr. Depp arrived first, correct?
I think so, yeah.
And isn't it true that Ms. Heard, Amber didn't arrive until March 5th, 2015 to Australia?
I can't remember the date she arrived, to be honest.
But she could have arrived March 5th, 2015. Isn't that true?
Objection, foundation, speculation.
I'll allow it if you can answer it.
Sorry, what was the question?
Ms. Heard could have arrived on March 5th, 2015, correct?
It's possible, I suppose.
And isn't it true then that you didn't see any arguments between Ms. Heard and Mr. Depp before the injury that occurred to Mr. Depp's finger in Australia?
I saw them argue.
You saw them argue when they came back, in April, correct?
I certainly saw them argue in April and through most of the months they were there, yes.
But you don't remember, you can't recall any arguments in February or March of 2015 between Ms. Heard and Mr. Depp.
Well, if she wasn't there till March.
Days, not necessarily, no.
Right, so that you don't know, you can't say that there were any arguments before you came to the house on March 8th, 2015, correct?
I think there were,
Excuse me, say that again?
I think there were.
But you don't even know when she arrived, correct?
Specifically, the day, not necessarily, no.
Okay. And you said when you arrived at the house on March 8th, when you eventually found
Do you guys see the lawyer just signal him?
right?
Wrapped, I mean, it was loosely wrapped.
He's just got to stay calm. This guy seems honest to me.
And it was sitting in the sort of nest of this paper, yes.
So like someone had put the finger in a piece of paper?
I don't know. I mean, it was in that piece of paper.
It was in a piece of paper, okay. So, but again, like someone had wrapped it up, is that right?
I don't know. It was within that scrunched up piece of paper, kitchen paper, tissue.
So it was in kitchen paper.
I think it was just sort of like a stay calm and take your time type signal.
A lot of blood on it.
So like a paper towel?
Like a piece of kitchen towel.
When you say kitchen towel, our language is made, even though we both speak English, I may stay a little different. It's like a paper towel?
Yeah, like kitchen paper, kitchen towel. Yes,
Okay.
like a tissue.
And was there that sort of paper towel in the kitchen at the house at the time?
Yes, in both areas, the kitchen and the bar.
Okay. You said you were in Australia starting in February of 2015, correct?
Correct. I arrived on the 4th of February.
And Mr. Depp arrived sometime after that, is that right?
Correct.
Okay. Did you see Marilyn Manson while you were there?
No, I didn't.
You don't know if Mr. Depp was with Marilyn Manson in late February, early March 2015?
Objection, foundation, speculation, relevance.
I'm just asking if he saw, he said he saw him every day, so I was asking if he saw.
I'll allow the question if you can answer it. That's fine.
Marilyn Manson didn't come to the house. I didn't see him at any point.
Do you know if Mr. Depp left to be with Marilyn Manson?
I don't know. I didn't always know where he was going. If he went out, it was either to work or the security would go with. I wouldn't generally go. In fact, I don't think I went out with him at all in Australia.
And you didn't go out with Mr. Depp at all when he was in Australia, correct?
I don't recall it. I saw him on set once or twice. Yeah.
So you don't know what Mr. Depp was doing in Australia, unless you saw him at the house or on set. Is that right?
I saw him at the house. Yes, every day.
But you don't know what Mr. Depp was doing when he left the house, correct?
Generally going to work on Pirates of the Caribbean 5 filming. Yes.
Were you with him?
No, but the security with him, and I had to liaise with him for when he would go and when he would come back for the driver, etc.
But you weren't there. You weren't there when Mr. Depp left the house, correct?
Generally, I didn't go. Didn't leave the house with Mr. Depp on those days. No.
And I just want to make sure. I want to be clear. There were two kind of periods that Mr. Depp was in Australia in 2015, right?
I am genuinely curious if and how they're going to poke holes in what seems like a very honest guy's story.
2015 until about March 8th, March 9th, when he injured his finger. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah.
And then Mr. Depp left Australia too, correct?
At some point, he flew to LA. Yes.
And then Mr. Depp returned to Australia on April 21st, right?
Okay, that sounds about that time. I don't know the specific date. I don't recall.
And the filming of Pirates of the Caribbean 5 continued filming on April 21st, right?
Objection, foundation, speculation.
I didn't get. Oh, sorry.
There's objection.
You recall testifying to that in the UK?
I'll overrule the objection if you can answer it.
That the filming of Pirates of the Caribbean 5 continued filming on April 21st, 2015.
I wasn't involved in the filming schedule. I didn't know when it resumed, to be honest. I knew Mr. Depp would come back to resume filming, for sure.
You didn't live with Mr. Depp in his house in Australia, correct?
Live with? No, I wasn't resident there.
Now, when you arrived at the house, you saw a significant amount of damage, correct?
Yes, through the course of, yeah.
On which day?
Arrived, yeah.
Okay. And the scene was chaos, correct?
Chaos, I mean, there was a fair amount of damage.
The house was wrecked?
There was a lot of damage in the house, yes.
And the house was not in a good state, correct?
Asked and answered.
There was a lot of damage throughout the house.
You got to object first, and then you have your objection, Mr. Moses.
Objection.
Stand, and it helps. Okay. I'll overrule the objection. Go ahead. Next question.
Okay. And you said there was glass on the floor, correct?
In a few areas, mainly predominantly in the bar, yes. Down in the lower ground floor, correct.
Okay, and there was blood on the walls, correct?
In various places, blood on the floor, blood on the walls.
And there was blood on the walls throughout the 3 stories of the house, isn't that right?
No, I wouldn't say that was the extent of it. There were smears up the staircase going up to the master from the main level. There were smears and drips on the carpet.
So there were smears from the master level up to the bedroom area? I mean, from the main level up to the bedroom area, is that right?
Up to the 3rd floor, yes.
Like someone had walked from the main floor up to the bedroom floor?
Speculation.
Correct.
There was blood going up the steps, up on the staircase, and some on the walls. You know.
Doesn't he just know where it was, not how it got there?
As if someone was walking from the main level up to the master bedroom, correct? Is that what the blood was like?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Okay.
Or down. I mean,
Up or
there was
down, but
blood
from the
on
main
that
level to
staircase.
from the main level to the 3rd floor, correct?
Correct. Yes.
And you said the sofas were damaged, is that right?
One sofa in that sitting room, which was just off the kitchen, was quite an open plan thing. So off that, there was a sofa with a large TV on a wall-mounted TV in front of that sofa.
And the sofa was on the main level, correct?
Correct, just by the main kitchen, exactly.
And where the sofa was damaged, was that with what?
Blood.
Blood. Okay. And the lights were damaged?
Some lamps, a couple of lamps, yes.
Okay. And there were bottles of alcohol in and out of the fridge, correct?
Sorry, what do you mean?
Did you see bottles of alcohol in and out of the fridge?
Yes.
In and out.
There was. I don't completely understand what you mean.
You saw that, correct?
There was alcohol bottles. Yes, there was in the fridge.
Did you see bottles inside the fridge? Did you see bottles outside the fridge? It's like the way the guy's asking it is weird.
Ruined. I mean, there was a lot of damage on the floor, down in the bar area and the staircase, and on the main floor area on the wooden parquet floor. Correct.
And the floors were going to have to be sanded, correct?
I eventually got them sanded. Yes.
Okay. And you were there. I think you testified. It took you about 12 to 13 hours in the house cleaning up, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And you said that is it your testimony that you didn't see any of the paintings damaged?
The existing paintings from the owners from the house no, none of them were damaged.
You didn't see any paintings with a painting of a penis drawn on it?
I did not, and thankfully that was something I didn't have to replace.
Do you know if anyone else saw
painting.
That? Objection, speculation.
It would be hard to get a new penis painting on short notice.
Mr. King, you just need to stop. That's all right.
I'm sorry.
All right, if you stand, we can see you better when you do that.
Understood.
Okay, I'll sustain the objection. Next question.
Okay. And you said that Jerry Judge was at the house, correct?
Correct.
And he's the head of Mr. Depp's security, correct?
Correct.
And Dr. Kipper was at the house?
Yes, he was.
And Debbie Lloyd was at the house as well, correct?
Yes, she was.
Okay. Now, you understood that Mr. Judge saw scratches on Ms. Hurd on March 8th, correct?
Objection, hearsay, speculation, foundation.
All right. I'll sustain.
Yeah, you got to sustain that.
Did you the cleaning lady was going to be coming to the house, correct?
The housekeeper?
Can you imagine? He's not allowed to say what someone told him because it's hearsay, but then the same people want him to say, did you hear about what someone else had said they saw?
There on weekends.
There was concern about the cleaning lady coming to the house and seeing everything that was in the house, correct?
Objection, speculation, foundation, vague.
I'll allow it if you can answer it. You can answer it.
Thank you. Concern. Sorry.
There was concern about the cleaning lady coming to the house and seeing all the damage that had been done, correct?
I know that when I left to fly to LA with Miss Hurd, I told both the chef and the housekeeper they didn't need to be coming to the house because Miss Hurd, essentially the principals weren't there. Mr. Depp wasn't there. Miss Hurd was obviously with me at that point. So I said they didn't need to come to the house.
Isn't it true that you told Mr. Judge that you thought you could get the cleaning lady to swear to silence about what the house looked like?
Objection, hearsay.
It's his own statement.
His own statement. I'll allow it.
Isn't it true that you told Mr. Judge that you thought you could get the cleaning lady to swear to silence about what the house looked like?
I think I probably made a comment about, I should just come back and deal with this myself, if that's what you mean, and just get cleaned up.
And make sure that she wouldn't say anything, correct?
I don't know. I trusted her and the chef anyway. They were good team members.
As the house manager, part of your job is you said you work with high-profile people, correct?
High profile, high net worth, I think is what I actually said.
Would you agree that one part of your job is to keep things discreet for your clients?
Of course, it's part of my job. Trust and discretion, yeah.
And Mr. Depp was your client, right?
I worked on an assignment on those occasions, yes. But I was self-employed at the time, yeah.
But in March 8th, 2015 in Australia, Mr. Depp was your client, correct?
Correct, essentially, yeah.
Or was it like the
I
studio?
misheard. Both of them, the principals.
Who paid? And do you know who paid for your services?
As I said before, I was paid through Disney, who were making the Pirates of the Caribbean, their production company, which I believe was called Herschel.
Okay. And can we put up Defendant's Exhibit 377, which is already in evidence?
All right. You gotta put on. That's here.
Mr. King, do you see Defendant's Exhibit 377 in front of you?
I do, yes.
And do you recognize this as a lampshade that was in the house in Australia on March 8th, 2015?
Yes, it was, I believe, one of the lampshades that was missing from one of the lamps.
Okay. And did you see this painting on the lampshade?
I did, yeah. It was part of my walk around to see what...
And what floor was the lampshade on?
This was on where the art studio was, on that main level.
Yeah, so on the main level, okay.
Yes. Excuse me.
And did you notice that it was dark paint that was on the lampshade?
It certainly looked like it, yes.
Okay. And did you take this picture?
I believe I did. Yeah, without seeing the metadata.
Okay. And can we put up Defendant's Exhibit 374, please? And you recognize Defendant's Exhibit 374 as a mirror that was in the house in Australia on March 8th, 2015, correct?
Yes, I do.
And this mirror was in the bathroom, correct?
Correct. There were two mirrors in the bathroom above each sink.
And this was on the top floor, correct?
The master bathroom,
The master
essentially.
bathroom. And the master bathroom, just so I'm clear, was on the top floor,
Top
right?
floor, correct.
And this painting said starring Billy Bob. Is that right? Is that what you recall?
Yeah, I don't know. I was writing.
Okay. And was this in the writing? Was it in paint?
I believe it was the same paint, the oil paint that was used on the other mirror that we saw earlier.
Okay. And did you take this picture?
Again, possible. I haven't seen the metadata, but yes, probably.
And let's put back up Defendant's Exhibit 375. This writing was also in the master bathroom, correct?
Correct, yeah.
Okay. And could you tell if the black paint was on top of the red or under the red?
I didn't really analyze it, to be honest. I just knew I was going to have to clean it up at some point.
Right. Your whole concern was just cleaning up the house, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And you don't know who wrote what on the mirror, correct?
No, I know that one was oil paint and the other red writing was lipstick.
And lipstick, you're not even sure of that. You just saw it was something sticky. Is that right?
I'm pretty sure it's waxy, like
Waxy.
lipstick-like, same as the oil paint was oil paint-like.
Okay. Did you see paint? Did you see also any writing in blood?
Writing, not necessarily.
No? Okay. Now, did you help when Miss Heard was leaving to go back to L.A.? You were with her, correct?
Correct.
Did you help her pack?
I think I may have done at that point. Yes, I think I did.
Did you see weren't Miss Heard's clothes ruined?
I didn't see any ruined clothes.
There wasn't paint on her clothes?
Not that I could see, not so much. Not at that point of packing. I mean,
There was paint in the tub, correct?
say again, sorry.
There was paint in the tub in the bathroom, correct?
I don't recall that.
You don't recall one way or the other?
I don't recall being paint in the tub.
And it's your testimony that there was no paint or blood on Miss Heard's clothes. Is that what you're saying?
Asked and
I
answered.
don't.
No, I'll allow.
Okay. Now, you said you were in charge of the cleanup, correct?
Yes, it was my responsibility. The house was.
And you were working with Mr. Judge and cleaning up the house. Is that right?
On the day that I arrived there.
Yes.
Mr. Judge did help me at some point. Yes, sweeping up glass, etc.
And was there photos taken of more than the three pictures you've been shown?
Photos
Photos of the house.
By whom?
Did you take any pictures of the house?
I took a few, yeah. I mean, yes.
And did you take pictures other than the three that we saw?
I think I probably did as I was going around.
Do you know who you gave those pictures to?
No.
Do you know what you took the photos with?
My phone.
And who would you have sent those photos to?
And send them to anybody at that point.
You just kept them?
Yes.
Did you show the photos to anyone?
No.
Do you still have the photos?
Yes.
Where are they on your phone still?
They're on one of my devices, yes.
Okay. Did you take a photo of the vodka bottle that you said was broken?
Yes.
And you have that photo?
Yes.
Okay. And you didn't give that to anybody?
There are a fair few photos. I can show it to you now if you want.
How many photos did you have on your phone?
I don't remember the number, but probably more than 10.
Did anyone ever ask you for the photos?
Several of them, yes. Yes.
Did you give them to the people who asked?
Some of them, yes.
Not all of them?
I don't recall how many.
Who asked you for the photos?
I was involved in a case in London a couple of years ago.
Did you give the photo of the vodka bottle to the people that you were involved in the case in London?
Objection, relevance, Your Honor.
Overruled all out.
Wow.
Say again, sorry.
Did you give a photo of the vodka bottle to the people you were working with in London?
Vodka.
I don't recall which photos I given.
Everything's allowed.
So did you take photos of the walls?
The walls, certainly the smears of the blood and the damage, the plaster damage, yes.
You took photos of the walls with blood on it, is that right?
Yes.
And you took photos of the plaster, right, that was damaged?
At the end of the bar and in the bar, behind the bar, by the sink, yes.
And did you take photos of the ping pong table that you said was broken?
Yes, as part of the bar area, I'm
Did
sure.
you take photos of, there was a glass table that was broken too, correct?
A glass table? I don't recall a glass table.
Okay. Did you take photos of all the damage that was around the house?
Probably most of it, yes.
Okay. And the only time you gave those photos to anyone, you're saying, was in the UK case a couple years back?
I'd never shared them with anybody else, yes.
Okay.
Quite discreet. He's a butler.
And it cost about $75,000 to clean up the damage, isn't that right?
I don't know the exact cost. I think I calculated at the time, after all the vendors had been and done their thing, it was about 50,000, I seem to recall.
Okay. Now, you said you flew back to Australia with Ms. Heard, correct?
I didn't fly back with Ms. Heard.
Flew back to LA from Australia.
He never said that.
With Ms. Heard, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And you were asleep for most of the flight, correct?
For a lot of it, I think it's a 14-hour flight, so I think we both slept for quite a lot of it, yeah.
You were exhausted from the 13 hours you were working on the house, right?
Correct.
All right. And your testimony was that Ms. Heard said to you, have you ever been so angry with someone that you just lost it, correct?
After I'd asked, so, what happened?
But you didn't inquire as to what she was referring to, right?
I mean, by what happened, it was pretty clear what I was referring to.
Let me ask again. You did not inquire as to what she was referring to, did you?
With her answer,
Correct.
she didn't inquire as to my reason for asking, but it was pretty obvious to both of us what I was asking and what her reply was regarding.
You have the copy.
It's like we both knew what we were talking about, sir. The reason we're on this plane together right now. The Butler's doing quite well, I must say.
Yes, that's fine, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Charles Whitney, for grabbing a membership on my website. Appreciate that.
Mr. King, you testified on behalf of Mr. Depp in the UK, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And you provided 2 witness statements, correct?
Correct.
And then you provided testimony in court, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And if you take a look at page 1103 of your testimony, you see how the pages go in 4s?
Yeah. No.
You see it's actually on the
Bottom right?
bottom right. You see that?
Yeah, I got it.
And if you actually look at, you see starting at the bottom of 1102, this was a statement when you said you did not, you say, Ms. Heard asked you, have you ever been so angry with anyone that you lost it? Your answer, that's correct. And you specifically remember that, do you? Yes. You said it never happened to you. Answer, that is correct. Question, she did not, I mean, if it was said, nothing was said about who she was talking about, was it? Answer, she was asking me a question. Question, she was asking you a question. Answer, yes. Question, you did not inquire as to what she was referring to, did you? I do not recall asking. I know that she was asking for a question and I gave her an answer. See that?
Yes.
Okay, and that was your testimony you gave in the UK 2 years ago, correct?
Oh, God.
Yes.
Okay. So you don't know what Ms. Heard was talking about when she made that statement, correct?
It was obvious.
You don't know if she was inquiring, that she was making that statement about Mr. Depp, right?
We both
Like
knew.
I said, I'd asked the question, what happened, referring to the house, and she gave me that answer. So I think we were both, it was pretty clear to both of us what we were talking about. I mean,
And then you went to sleep.
at that point,
And then you went to sleep, and then you had the flight the rest of the time.
sometime after that, yeah.
Okay. Now, and you said you saw Ms. Heard with cuts on her arm, is that right? On the
That's
flight?
right, towards the end of the flight, yeah.
Okay. If we could put up 376G.
Is it not true you had airplane coffee?
Do you recognize this picture?
I've not seen this picture before.
Were these the cuts? Did you see cuts like this on Ms. Heard?
Is that Ms. Heard?
Why don't we put up 376C?
Do you deny you asked for the kosher meal?
Do you recognize the person in that picture?
That's Ms. Heard.
All right. And did you see cuts like that, which are on her left arm?
Similar to that, long, like I described earlier, long, thin cuts, pretty uniform cuts.
These were the cut. The cuts were like this on her kind of wrist, forearm area. Is that right?
I don't know what the date of this photograph is, but they look pretty uniform like they do here, yes.
Okay. Like to enter 376C into evidence?
Any objection?
No objection.
Okay, 376C in evidence.
What's that?
Now you can't change it.
And can we?
This is
put
a
back up
crazy trial.
376G?
Really nuts. The butler, to me, is the star of this whole thing. Is it true you kept the Qantas slippers?
376C, is this consistent with the scratches on 376G? Are these consistent with the scratches you saw on Ms. Heard?
I don't see a date. Is that the same time? Is that the same date?
Oh, my
these
question is, are the scratches similar to what you saw on Ms. Heard?
These are uniform, kind of long, thin scratches. Yes.
I'd like to enter
scratches.
376G into evidence.
Any objection?
I mean, Foundation, he hasn't authenticated the document through this witness.
I mean, I'm just asking if the pictures are consistent with what
I'll
he's.
allow it 376G in evidence.
And can you publish it, please?
It is.
Thank you.
There's a good question here from people saying Johnny Depp's suing for $50 million. Does she even have $50 million? My understanding is he has $150 million and she has $8 million, but that may not be accurate.
Okay. Now, you were in the house, you said, for 12 to 13 hours on March 8th, 2015, correct?
Correct, going into March 9th, 2015.
Okay. And you spoke to Mr. Judge when you were in the house, correct?
You had interaction with Mr. Judge, yes.
And you had interaction with Dr. Kipper when you were in the house, correct?
Correct.
And you had interaction with Debbie Lloyd when you were in the house, correct?
Yes, briefly.
Okay. And isn't it true that in the entire time you were there, you were not informed as to what caused damage to Mr. Depp's finger on March 8th?
Objection, hearsay.
That's
Beautiful.
what he wasn't told.
I'll sustain the objection. Next question.
You didn't know what could cause damage to Mr. Depp's hand while you were there on March 8th, correct?
Dr. Kipper told me
But you don't know what caused the injury to his finger.
one of
correct?
his fingers.
Oh,
But you
that's
don't know
Skip.
you don't know how his
was
finger
weird.
was injured,
I
correct?
don't think anybody mentioned it to me at that time.
Right, no one mentioned it to you at that time, correct?
I don't
Same objection,
really
Your Honor,
recall.
hearsay.
Sorry, I'll allow it. Next question. He answered it.
Now, you understand that there was a phone in the house that was recording during the cleanup, correct?
Sorry, I didn't hear all of that.
Did you come to understand that there was a phone in the house that was recording as people were cleaning up?
At that time, no.
But you now know that there was a phone that was recording people as they were cleaning up, correct?
Objection, Foundation, hearsay.
I'm not asking for particular statements.
That's fine. I'll allow it if he knows.
I believe that came up somewhere later on. At that time, I wasn't aware, but I believe I became aware of it later, yes.
Okay. I would like to put up defendant's 378. It's a recording, and I want to play a couple of times.
Oh, boy.
12:07 through 13:19.
About a minute and 12 seconds.
Is that the only segment you wish to have?
And then I'd also like to play 1951 through 21:38.
And is this going to be used again, or is this?
I think it would be A.
Okay, 378A. Any objection to 378A?
Yes, Your Honor, we do have an objection. I believe this is a recording that has the voices of people other than Ms. Heard and Mr. Depp, and on that basis, it's hearsay.
Okay.
Unless I'm incorrect about which document we're talking about.
Please proceed, Governor.
Sure.
All right, guys, at this time, my coverage has to end because I actually have to get set up for our later stream. I'm going to be streaming the Dr. Mehmet Oz debate later. So there are any number of other streams that will continue. Thank you for joining me, and I will be back with everybody in a couple of hours. See you very soon.